Welcome to another Friday episode of Hold the Mic, where facts matter more than feelings. Do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button, and let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Hold the Mic. We are your hosts. I'm ryanshead. That's Sherman. Brother, how are you doing?
What up, though, man? It's so good to see you. I feel like we've
too,
talked
man.
like all week, and I'm loving this. I'm loving this bromance. All right.
It's the highlight of my week, man. What can I say?
When I get a phone call from you, I'm
wait till we get to the positives. Wait till we get to our positives. You'll love it.
Ooh, okay. All right. All right.
So with that, I just wanted to welcome everybody. I know we're 20 minutes late, but you'll understand why here in a minute. There's so much crap coming out of Washington, D.C. on an hourly basis that it's, especially on Fridays, it's like they just pump out as much as they can. So, we've got a lot to get into. This is our 50th episode of Hold the Mic. So,
you know what makes this special, this episode being our 50th?
What's that?
Not only that we rocked with each other for 50 Fridays. Okay, that's here we are. I think this is the first episode that my wife is actually watching.
And it's the first time I've actually... And I've got to meet her for the first time.
And that's actually wild to think about it. This is the first time you met her. Isn't she like Wednesday Addams? She's always looking at me like
I was wondering if you actually had a wife there for a while. So
I was making it up. It was a blow up doll. And then I actually just hired, this young lady to just pop in. She not only is watching, she has her friends watching. So hello, friends. Welcome to Hold the Mic. Here, you're in store for a political clusterfuck. Enjoy.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. And welcome to the rest of our usual listeners. Sorry, we're a little late, but we have an awesome guest for you tonight. We didn't expect to bring him back so soon, but with everything going on in the pace that this has been going down, we're bringing Robert McWhirter back on because he is a constitutional lawyer. And as you guys know, here on this show, Ian and I aren't trying to start a cult. We just want to educate folks. So we like to bring people on that actually know what they're talking about. So Ian and I are not lawyers or attorneys, which we tell you all often. So we're going to bring one on so that you can speak with him and hear what he has to say. Because when you hear people like Robert start throwing the red flags, sounding the alarm, saying, yeah, we should probably start paying attention now. That's probably what we should do. So with that, Robert, thank you for coming back on the show.
He is.
Appreciate you, sir. And a big shout out to Chris Lee for connecting us all together. I told him he needs to come on the podcast. It's time for him to get out from behind the camera a little bit. So hopefully we can egg him on a little bit. But no, thank you for coming back on. Like I said, we got a lot to talk about. So, but is there anything on your mind right now? Is there anything that just is irritating you that you've watched that's just got you going, yeah, this is bad?
Are you talking to me or?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not talking to this guy.
There's so much pain and so little time.
I know.
Talk about this. Look, several matters. What's happened with USAID is terrible. What is happening with foreign policy? I am literally right now writing an op-ed, and it's entitled "How Donald Trump Has Turned Me into a Reagan Republican Related to Foreign Policy." Mm-hmm. Reagan got it right. Wow. I mean, he was wrong in a lot of things in terms of the way he treated the third world and Latin America in terms of foreign, because there was always this paradigm between the Soviet Union and the United States, and he read it all there. But in Europe, I mean, Reagan showed true greatness when he stood up and said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." And Donald Trump is sitting there saying, "Hey, Mr. Putin, go ahead and take over Ukraine." I mean, Ronald Reagan, what happened? I mean, right now, CPAC is going on. What happened to the true conservatives that talked about this and realized about American exceptionalism is based on the idea of our adherence to liberal democracy, which Putin, as a totalitarian, is trying to destroy throughout Europe and the United States. And yes, Donald Trump is just cushioning up to him at the expense of Zelensky, who's actually fighting the remnant of the Cold War for us. I just find that so appallingly shocking. It's hard to really get my mind around that change. So
I know that's that's just one of many terrifying things right now. Before we get into my outline, what about you, brother? What do you got? What's on your tip of your tongue right now?
I've been taking in just this past week alone the CPAP CPAC stage.
CPAP. It shows how old we are.
Yeah. No, I was actually it's funny.
Kind of like
it's funny. My wife
politics.
My wife and I just watched Joe Coy. Joe
Coy. Yeah.
Joe Coy. We just watched Joe Coy, and it was he talked about the CPAT, just dating zaddies, and I was like, it's just been living rent free in my head. It's hilarious. Yeah, just in general, that these young girls are not ready for a zaddy. Just the importance of what they need to know when we stop breathing in the middle of the night. So, no, but the CPAC stage, it is very much so. I just text Ryan it, but it resembles one of the emblems on a Nazi SS soldier's a neck collar. If you look at the design, and it's like there's these little weird moments that are just plugged in that we're seeing, and it's just visually there. And of course, they can deny it. Oh, it's just a shape of a stage, this, that, and the third. But it's like when you constantly see all these things, it's very reminiscent of seeing how Hitler used to grandstand at the Coliseum almost mentality. When then you look at the Beast at the Daytona 500, when you put the two photos next to each other, how much they just mirror each other. And I think of Sadia, Ryan, when we talk about patterns and seeing all these patterns that are just kind of unfolding. And it's just like, what are these little subtle nods that are just there? And I ask people, just Google Hitler at a racetrack, and you'll see this photo. Look at Donald Trump at Daytona 500. It's these elements that you see that are just there. And you're like, okay, it's the imagery that exists. And then you understand the grandstanding of why they're doing this. They want to take your mind off of all this stuff that we're going to talk about in this show, because it's not getting the news of light. It's literally absorbing all of the room oxygen in the room. And it's one of those things that makes it a little frustrating, because here we are like, look up, and they're like, don't look up. And then I really think about that movie a lot, where you're like, come on, guys. Like I feel like I'm going crazy with all of the flood of information going in, but I understand this is the rat race. This is the marathon. We got to take our time and really just take everything in, put it on the table, look at it, and then just get ready for the next wave of BS that's going to come our way.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's too many things.
Well, let's get into some of them, shall we?
Yeah.
I do want to start with a Feelings Friday, because I seem to have upset a lot of MAGA people. We've even got some in here. We've got the PAA podcast already in here looking for some love. So, make sure you go give them what they're looking for. Man, this is going to be fun. So I came on, and we're going to talk about a lot of things today that is going to support what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And let me find it real quick so you guys can know what I'm talking about. Oh, where did it go? So, make sure you go.
What is that?
What was that?
That's me.
Oh, I'm like, you're confusing me.
My bad. Always the monkey wrench in the system.
Oh, I don't know where it went. Anyway, Tim Pool, I got him upset, and a bunch of other MAGAs, because I'm basically telling people you need to go get your guns, get your ammo. It's time to stock up, because if you thought the government and the military was going to save you, if you haven't noticed yet, they're not. A lot of them, especially in the military, are loyalists, and again, we're going to get into that in a minute. But I said what got everybody upset was, I said, get your guns and ammo ready. That's where this is headed, 100%. The federal government is being run by felons, frauds, and rapists who will stick together no matter what. I hope there are enough judges left to save us, but it all leads to the Supreme Court, which I have zero faith in doing the right thing. And everybody started tagging Kash Patel and the FBI and saying, come find me, send me one of their little letters and all that stuff. And, I'm not scared of them. They seem to have taken that as a threat, which I find interesting. But I mean, look at this. They're sending out letters to members of Congress basically threatening them and saying, "Can you explain that, please?" It's like, nah, it was pretty clear. He's a dick. Like,
Robert, what do you think this kind of intimidation, or what would you call this this level of where we're seeing this now accelerate with them weaponizing and doing everything that they said was happening to them? Now we're watching it actually unfold.
Well, let's just be clear about what the Constitution says. The Constitution has a speech and debate clause, which says that any person in the legislature, and this goes all the way back to Sir Thomas More and Henry VIII, by the way, any person in the legislature is basically immune for what they say on the floor of the House or Senate, and that's to protect the legislative branch and the prerogatives of the legislative branch as they enter into a free and open debate about the issues that affect all of us to create better policy, etc. And so what they're doing is saying, oh, Chuck Schumer said this either on the House floor or in connection, and somehow they're just trying to intimidate him by threatening an investigation. The trouble with it is this is going to go legally nowhere at all. I wouldn't have said some of the things that Senator Schumer said, but they're not actionable. They're not anything you could charge somebody a crime with. So the effect is to make a show of sending that letter and then somehow intimidating, or just trying to look like you're tough and gonna stick it to the libs what is the real point. It's the level of nastiness and childishness that you're getting out of the Trump administration. But if you look at constitutionally, they're immune from that kind of prosecution. And what they should really do is to tell them to go pound sand. But you never know how this affects people.
Yeah, I think most of them are telling them to. I know that congressman. He was like, "Yeah, okay, have fun with that."
Well, look, if you're really smart, like AOC, she turns it around on them and is more effective at social media than they are. So it always takes what they do and turns it right around back on them.
Which is why she should be heading up a committee.
They released that video of her dancing in college.
In college.
Because they wanted to undermine her. They wanted to make her look. And boy, did that enhance her profile and the respect people had for her.
It backfired on them for sure.
Backfired great. And the bottom line is she dances better than Mitch McConnell does, so fine. We're all done.
Hey, man, that's a mean two-step. I've never seen a turtle on two hind legs.
Hey,
all right, I'm telling you right now.
But shout out that we're not going to have to deal with Mitch McConnell. Let's just pray that his replacement isn't somehow worse.
Yeah. And by the way, I would like to say one thing about AOC. She's obviously a very attractive woman, and she gets almost attacked for that by the right wing. Like, she can't be smart and attractive unless you're looking like a Trump world attractive.
Right.
Got its own little brand with a lot of work. Let's put it that way. I have found, when I've heard AOC in committee, to be one of the most intelligent, insightful questioners of witnesses. I'm amazed she hasn't gone to law school. And she does better examinations and cross-examinations of witnesses, I would say, than 80 to 90% of the lawyers out there. So she's got real abilities. And they always seem to denigrate her on intelligence. I mean, okay, you don't agree with her policies, but they want to attack her on intelligence. And I think that's just a question of misogyny.
And never being able to debunk what she's saying.
Yeah, I know. So I've kind of got a legal crush on her. She's good.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, and what I like about AOC is, when she first came in, she was young, trying to make a name for herself, all that stuff, and dealing, figuring out how to play the game, all that stuff. And she's really settled in to the position. And what I also like is there's been Republicans that have come out and said, for all the whatever in front of the cameras, when you get behind closed doors, she wants to make deals. She wants to get stuff done for her constituents.
Right.
Well, and I would like to think that,
and actually she was the only one who actually looked at her district and was like, I need to have a town hall immediately after what happened to look at and unpack this election. And she says, why did you vote for me and also Donald Trump? I need to know this. And she's the only one who really went onto the street level and said, I need to figure this out. I don't see much of that. I haven't heard from Schumer, not saying that I voted for Trump, but I haven't heard from Schumer or anybody else about like, hey, can we talk? We need to get everybody together. We need to see what happened in our district in general. I see no communication. And I actually just reached out to him recently and was just like, hey, what is the roadmap that we are looking at for the next 2 years to get us to midterms. Haven't heard one thing back from them yet. So will they reach out? I know we're Z-list celebrities over here, but regardless of that, it's like what we got to start dialogue somewhere. So what does that look like?
Well, that's interesting. Sure. That makes me a guest of Z-list celebrities. So what does that mean?
Welcome.
Well, you're here lifting us. Yeah, no.
I'm not so sure of that. But
we may become an R list because you're here. So
there it is. There it is.
So it's just really interesting to me to see the pearl clutching from the right wing when we say we're not just going to sit here and show belly and let you take our country, abandon all our allies without us saying anything, appoint nothing but loyalists and start firing anybody that doesn't, do what you say they should do. Like, you're doing exactly what the left wing said was going to happen. Right. They're following Project 2025. Like, they're checking it box by box.
Yeah.
Look, I think we should look at this as a bit of an opportunity. There are a huge number of good, old-fashioned, principled Republicans out there who no longer have a home. Now, the lesser of them have just morphed into this weird CPAC world and this weird MAGA world. But there are a tremendous, we can disagree with them on policy or whatnot. And those are good, honest disagreements. But those people are for us. And, look at the Lincoln Project. These are all a bunch of Republicans who are mounting these, I think, very effective ads. Yeah. And I think it's time now to really focus on, look, this is about democracy and process and the whole thing. Ronald Reagan was a great supporter of USAID and as a key part of American foreign policy. The fact that Trump is wiping it out is utterly ludicrous in terms of American interest. And I think we need to kind of find common cause with those folks and get things back together.
I agree. And I also challenge anybody, especially if you have somebody that's throwing the Ronald Reagan talking point around, go look and see Ronald Reagan's final speech from the White House. Yeah. And go listen to it. He speaks about immigrants and speaks about how America takes them in and why that should continue. It's a very good speech. So if you're one of those Republicans out there that like to talk about Reagan all the time to support your claims, go listen to the last speech he gave, because I think it applies now more than ever.
Well, let's also kind of focus on this is an overplayed hand by the Trump. First of all, I really get tired of this preaching. He won a majority. He did not win a majority. He won 49 point whatever percent.
Yep.
Last I checked, I mean, I'm not a math expert, but a majority is 51. In fact, I'll even give you a 50.01 if you want. But the point is, it's more than 49. Kamala Harris won 48 point whatever. So right there, you don't have anything nearing a, quote, mandate, end quote. You have power because you were able to grab out by the narrowest of margins 2 houses of Congress. And what the Republicans have done, they've ceded their constitutional role of being a check on the executive branch in favor of being part of the MAGA cult and the fear they have of resisting it. And if you look at what's happening with the polling data, this has all just gone too far. And it's going to be worse and worse as the price of eggs go up and as the price of gasoline goes up. I mean,
which historically, he's at the lowest of any president at this stage in their presidency.
And he has the highest disapproval rate. Now, there was similar in the first term of Ronald Reagan. He came in, his approval rate was relatively the same, but Reagan had an 8% disapproval rate because people said, okay, we'll give him a shot. Donald Trump's disapproval rate is 47%. And now that is shifting even worse for him. So there's the approval plus the disapproval.
And which these town halls.
Right?
Yeah.
There seems to be absolutely no attempt to reach out to the fact that he's supposed to be president of all Americans. He tells us that he is not our president all the time.
Every day. And he tweeted this out October 26th of 2024. Eggs and gas prices out of control. Crooked Joe and the radical left destroyed affordability for hardworking Americans. It's a total scam. On day one, I'll slash prices so fast it'll make their heads spin. Big oil, big farms, they'll listen to me. Not lobbyists. No more ripoffs. MAGA. Some of them farmers aren't feeling so good right now.
No.
And isn't it USDA, the USAID that was actually funding, like actually helping farmers? It was they were buying their products from these farmers, from these Americans.
I mean, look, as you know, I've actually worked for a year in El Salvador administering the USAID program.
Yeah.
There's this notion that USAID is taking money from poor Americans, giving them to poor people in other parts of the world. Okay. Well, first of all, that's not really what's going on. Every penny is accounted for. Will you be able to find some fraud someplace in some USAID program? Perhaps. That's not the point. This accounts the entire U.S. foreign budget, foreign service budget, including USAID, is less than 1% of the overall budget. So this cut is minuscule in terms of balancing the budget. But more importantly, USAID aid is a huge help to American industry, American farmers. We send food to the third world. Where do you think that food comes from? Right now, the price of wheat is tanking because there's too much on the market, because wheat from farmers that was going to go to feed the rest of the world and create good feelings about the United States is now sitting on a dock rotting because it can't be sold. Farmers are going to lose their shirt because the price of their product is down. Just give the example. You send a tractor to somebody in the third world. Yes, it's paid for by taxpayer money, but that tractor has to be bought from John Deere. So the workers in the John Deere factory all of a sudden have jobs. The agri-industry of those countries are now tied into American agri, so they're not going to get their tractors from China. They're getting their tractors from us. The USAID is a huge benefit to the American worker, American farmers. It's not just money going to the third world. It's almost a job program for the United States. So it has to be dispelled, this image of fraud, not to mention the fact this key part of fighting the Cold War from John F. Kennedy, who started it, through Ronald Reagan, who fully supported it because it wins the hearts and minds of people. Now the Chinese are doing it.
I was going to say, they're stepping in with every single location that we step away.
Quietly. And they're the ones then in the next decades that can bank on the support of those nations when they want to do something against our interests.
Right. Yep. There was 3 warships that were just 150 nautical miles away from Australia, and they weren't breaking any laws. They were there in the international water, but they made a stance to let them know that they are moving in quietly to flex a little bit of power. There's these little games that are happening all around the world that we should all be paying attention to.
Well, I agree. Yeah. So, again, this stuff is all interrelated. Now, if you want to get into the constitutional issues, for instance, of USAID, this is a program that Congress created. Congress created the agency. The president under the Constitution has the duty to faithfully execute. This is the language in the Constitution. Faithfully execute the laws that Congress passes. The president under the Constitution actually has very few designated powers. Presidents get powers because of acts of Congress that create agencies that presidents then administer and execute those laws. So nearly everything Donald Trump is doing is unconstitutional from that point of view. The trouble that we're having is he doesn't have a Congress that's willing to hold him in check because the Republicans are controlled by the MAGA faction of the Republican Party. And so things are just running amok with no checks and balances, which is totally contrary to what the framers of our Constitution intended.
Yeah, that's great. See, this is the kind of information. This is why we brought Robert on the show, because this is the type of information that you're not going to get on right-wing anything.
No,
it's news pundits.
No, in fact, I am shocked, and I shouldn't be. If you listen to CPAC or if you listen to Fox News, there is no line that they cannot cross with some kind of logical fallacy or false equivalency to somehow sound plausibly reasonable, but it's fundamentally just wrong.
Yeah.
And
well,
some
even
of them are
even looking at
I'm sorry, yeah.
No, just even looking at how Doge is making these mistakes where they're saying 8 billion, and then even in the little top corner it shows it's 8 million. And it's like, okay, well, these spreadsheets are, and I want everybody to really keep this in consideration. These are not accountants that are working on this. So when they say that they're auditing the books, these are not accountants. These are 19-year-olds to 24-year-olds who are tech bros, who are going through whatever. They are making mistake after mistake after mistake. And it's a very tech bro mentality where it is break things, move fast. That was Facebook's motto. This is, just how they think in the world of trying to get ahead of everybody else. And when you start seeing all the firings, and then it's the quietly, oh shoot, we need to rehire these people. We didn't realize how many airplanes have now crashed or gotten damaged or had any type of issues, yet they have fired how many people at the FAA. We are going into tax season. They have just let go of how many people at the IRS. Do not expect your taxes anytime soon when this comes up. Like, the writing's on the wall, and we're going to look at that being jumbled. And then there's this conspiracy theory on the right that's talking about how we're all going to get a stimulus check. Why would they fire all these people and then start handing out stimulus checks? Like, none of this makes sense. And it's this weird mega hope that they put on this pedestal for apparently King Donnie, who looks more like Humpty Dumpty. Let's just be serious. And it's when you see him and you see how this kind of all is like swirling around, they are force feeding themselves or each other the same talking points. And you're like, why is this? When do you want to come up for air? just in general, when do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Well, one thing is they are quite disciplined in message. They're on message, and that message is extends through various platforms, whether it's Fox News or the Senate Majority Leader's
It's
office.
almost like they own the platforms.
Yeah, no, very true. But again, this is getting to be fundamental problems because it's falling from the force of their logic, and they're not going to produce any of the things they're talking about.
Yeah.
So, we were talking a little bit before Steve Bannon's thing about flood the zone. Okay, you're flooding the zone. Well, grant you that. But the trouble is the American people are realizing that they are not focused on my life.
Yeah.
The price of eggs and gas is going up, and you're causing a recession. And Donald Trump's feeble attempts after all this splash to say it's still Joe Biden's fault is going to keep falling flat.
And that's going to be the new talking point.
I agree. Yeah. And while we're talking about Steve Bannon, it's getting a little old to see Americans throwing around these salutes. I don't know how you guys feel, but
that they win is we retreat, and we're not going to retreat. We're not going to surrender. We're not going to quit. Fight, fight, fight. Amen. Yeah. The only.
I got to tell you, you got to watch something though. Steve Bannon hates Elon Musk, so. One of the things is when you have an administration of narcissistic personality disorders, they eventually ain't going to get along. I think we could all start taking bets. Which one's going to leave first? Is it going to be Bannon? Is it going to be Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? Is it going to be Elon Musk? I mean, these people will not be able to get along at all.
I think he's tied to Elon Musk. I think I think they're tied together, unfortunately.
I think Elon Musk has the P tapes on Trump. That's what I think. So,
well, if you,
I think it's about money. I think it's more about money than P tapes. But
I said what I said.
Education, you would have read The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli, and The Prince says Machiavelli says, look, when you take over a free province and you're going to rule it, put your nastiest mean general in charge for a year and have him execute people, have him do terrible things, etc. And then a year later, you come in and execute him. And even though you took that province over, they now love you.
Yeah.
Well, Donald Trump, if he's playing this game, could just fire Elon Musk after all the mayhem he's committed in 6 months, a year or something, and try to claw back some of that popularity after he's totally mucked things up.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you
one scenario.
Let me ask you on this international level where you see things like Trump mucking up, say, negotiating with Russia about Ukraine. When you see that Vladimir Zelensky says, like, hey, like Trump, you're dabbling in disinformation. Like, you should really educate yourself. And then Trump now puts all his cards on the table and says, you started this war, you're a dictator, all these things. Is that not Zelensky playing chess to Trump, where he's like, how can you negotiate a deal for me if you already have this biased opinion about me on the world stage? And it's a negotiation that you're dealing with that I'm not even involved in. It's you and Putin. It's not me at the table. It's not the UN. It's not NATO that's showing up. It's just you and your your buddy talking about deals, and of course half of my minerals that you want, my supply. So it's interesting to see, the
because
world
South
stage,
Africa took their minerals, by the way. That's why they need them.
Well,
throwing that out there.
What's going on is it's been in the great American interest to be the leader of the free world. And this is what I was talking about, true American exceptionalism. We were the leaders of NATO, and we are ceding that now. Now, what can happen with that? NATO could step up independently of the United States, bereft of United States leadership, and support Vladimir Zelensky because it's in their interest to do so. It's in our interest to do so as well. So you could get a reshifting. So, ultimately, here's the problem. The next time we need something in the UN Security Council or an international accord, we no longer have the friends we had with that.
Yeah.
The big complaint about the U.S. footed most of the bill of NATO. Okay, you can make an argument that maybe NATO should have paid more, but just remember, if you're the guy that pays at the bar, you get to decide which type of wings we get. I mean, to be simple about it, you're paying the bill, you get to define the menu, and the United States has done that with a kind of a soft power by providing that leadership that the world crucially needed. I mentioned to you before that I'm in the process of writing another op-ed, and it's entitled How Donald Trump Has Turned Me into a Reagan Republican on Foreign Policy, a Ronald Reagan Republican on foreign policy, because he got it right. It was American exceptionalism versus those that are attacking our idea of a liberal democracy. And Donald Trump does not like that ideal of a liberal democracy. It's as simple as
yet wants the Nobel Peace Prize. That's how does that all work out there?
No. And by the way, that's what worries me the most is the idea of a liberal democracy throughout Europe and the United States is being challenged. This is foundational to America. Yeah. Vladimir Putin is attacking George Washington, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, James Addison. This is who he's really attacking, those ideas and ideals. And that's what makes America exceptional. That's why we're great, not because you wear a red MAGA hat.
Yeah.
So before we get into my outline, which we really haven't started yet.
I feel it's going to be a long show. Okay.
I love the shade.
And Ryan. we've already got 1,200 people watching. So, hey, I do want to ask Pam Bondi. I could be wrong, but I'm under the impression that attorney generals can't do this.
But we've got a team of great people, and on day one, I issued 14 executive orders, and number one is the weaponization ends, and it ends now. And that's what we did.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I don't know what the hell she's talking about. First of all, general,
he took the glasses off.
He's like, first off.
An attorney general doesn't issue executive orders. That's the president. An attorney general does issue memorandum of orders for purposes of her agency, but she doesn't unless she thinks she's the president for purposes of that, and maybe that's a Freudian slip on her part. But
maybe
the AG does not issue executive orders. Now, it's also
remember real quick, Robert, her demographic is mega. She has to draw with a crayon. Okay, the messaging has to be Crayola. All right, so executive order, they know those. She's just trying to talk their lingo so she can let them know she's doing something.
Her and Carolyn Levitt are proof why DEI is necessary. Because if there wasn't DEI policies, Trump would only hire white blonde women.
I wonder where he got that idea.
Well, look, I'm going to say something to you. They are playing on themes, and I very much criticize the Democrats for never pushing back on the false narratives in the force it has. And I'll give it to you.
Tell them, Robert.
Well, one is weaponization of the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice under Merrick Garland was a model of balance. They went after as many Democrats as they did Republicans. Look at Menendez.
Right. Yep. Menendez here in Jersey. Yep.
Right. Dude down in Louisiana.
Yep.
It was objective. It was well done. I have spent my career in opposition to the local U.S. attorneys. They are dedicated, top-notch lawyers and serve the American public and the American interest very well. So but there's never this pushback. The other thing there's never been a pushback on is this whole narrative that we have open borders and Joe Biden has let in rapers and murderers and all that stuff. That is just demonstrably false. But nobody fought back on that. We thought we were going to win this election because we were going to talk about reproductive freedom, and all the women were just going to vote for Kamala Harris because of that, and we failed. Miserably. Well, we need to talk about and we need to push back on the false narratives. They're false, they're illegal, they're unconstitutional, and not supported by the facts. Sorry, just got to get me rolling. Yeah, no. Look, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the great senator from New York, once said, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but they're not entitled to their own facts. We have allowed these people to be entitled to their own false narratives and false facts. Yeah. And we need to push back on that to basically preserve democracy. And like I said before, our friends, the decent Republicans, are just as much with us on that as we are. And I think that's important to keep in mind.
Yeah. The comfort stick said Ian's giving them too much credit. They don't understand that EOs only apply to the executive branch and other government departments. Oh God, it hurts my brain.
By the way, if I could go ahead, you got me kind of roll. I apologize.
No, go ahead.
You know, one of the things I think to really focus on the actions of this regime is, okay, you can talk about how unconstitutional it is, how inhumane it is, all these other things, and then those are fine. But I think we have to really center on how utterly incompetent they are. Let's take the example of immigration. I had written an op-ed for Democracy Docket, which was published this month. And really, Donald Trump, if you look at the numbers, the facts of his first term, he was utterly incompetent at actually enforcing immigration law. Mm-hmm. The deportations were down. Obama, Biden, all deported more people than Donald Trump. And that's even accounting for the years of COVID. And by the way, the real overachiever on that was Bill Clinton. Boy, his deportation numbers were huge. Right. So what's going on here? He is stumbling. Joe Biden deported 4 times as many people in the last month of his term than Donald Trump has done in these weeks of this. In the meantime, when he's running around saying he wants to deport all these folks, he is firing immigration judges. And he's fired for stuff. Well, how are you going to deport people without immigration judges to do the hearings? This is just utter incompetence. And agents are being offered buyouts and all that stuff. And then they pull their heads out and turn around and say, oh my God, we need to get these agents back. That's incompetence. And I think that's what's going to really the focus of the administration.
And by the way, some of the people, federal workers that took the buyout are now finding out that, oops, they're not going to get any of that money. Because it turns out that Trump didn't have the authority to do that. Oh, so congratulations.
And by the way, Elon Musk did the same thing when he took over TikTok. He dished that.
Yeah, Twitter, they had to take him to court. Yep.
Right. But here's my question for you. Because he's on record saying, I will pay you till September. Like you can take that clip right to court. Could they sue him now where they can now get compensation? Or is it going to be one of those things where they're going to prolong litigation as much as possible to then where you take whatever buyout or anything, whatever crumbs you can get, because you're never going to see your day in court. How is that?
That raises a very interesting constitutional issue, and that is, what is the true status of Elon Musk? How much does he really speak for the administration, or let's just be frank, the regime? And how much is he really binding it? I think they have a very good argument that given the sway of his power and the amount of people that he has been able to just fire under the auspices of Donald Trump, with Donald Trump's permission, that he is binding the administration contractually. And all those folks you're talking about have a good argument in court because he's binding the administration. Now, Donald Trump will want to distance himself and say, well, he was just a private whatever. No, I don't think so. He's implementing policy in an unconstitutional way, but he's allowed to do it. And I think then that binds the government.
Completely.
Which,
go ahead,
brother. No, go ahead, brother.
Well, I was going to say, Robert, in a past episode, I think an episode or 2 ago, I claimed on the show that I went and filed my paperwork for federal student loans. And I encouraged anybody. I go, the fact that they broke a law for your privacy, you did not give the authorization. You could make a claim that you don't know what has happened to your federal student loans. You don't know if they wrote anything or did anything. So I said, this is something that everybody who has a federal student loan should be looking into.
Utter incompetence. Let's go back to the theme of incompetence.
Yeah.
And that's unforgivable, that level of incompetence. But tie this in again to CPAC and another. Why is it that you want to wipe out and fire thousands of IRS agents? There's no government efficiency. It's contra efficient, because that means government revenue doesn't come in, which you need for the government to run. It has one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to allow rich people to avoid paying taxes. Modest means people, the middle class, now cannot talk to an IRS agent to get their questions answered so they can comply with their responsibilities and get their breaks. But nobody's going to audit the rich people now, and so they can just go on with impunity, not paying their fair share. There can be no other purpose for that than that, because it's not justified for cutting the federal budget and how much is getting paid. It's contra to that. So it only has one purpose, and those people turn around and are the very ones who then finance CPAC and fancy hotels in Washington, D.C., so they can run around and talk about how great they are.
That's the truth, Jesus.
And by the way, let's put this also in context. There is just as good solid thought on the other side, but they're not as well financed. I mean, if you look at the kind of the ultra left of the Democratic Party, and those people, frankly, can be a little frustrating, there's often a very similar personality structure to MAGA, but they will never be as powerful because they will never be as well financed. MAGA gets finance, which amplifies their true power and their influence, because they are benefiting the interests of the uber wealthy in this country and the economic divide that's separating basically the middle class and pushing the rest of us down.
And we never talk about like Peter Thiel. We never talk about the silent money that's really there. That's the tech bros that brought up JD Vance and really groomed him to be what he is today, and to plant him exactly where he's at for the position to do exactly what he's doing.
Here's the thing. If you're going to crash a convention, crash CPAC. The food's going to be a hell of a lot better.
Which I have to ask this question. Where's all my protesters for that are pro-Palestinian? Because you guys want to protest Captain America, Brave New World movie, because there's a fictitious Israeli character, but you're not going to go and bring the fight to Donald Trump himself. I'm just wondering where that's at. Just in general, if we're going to protest, pick the right spots, guys. Pick the right spots.
There was a lot of, I couldn't agree more. There was a lot of frustration in the last election cycle. I never fully understood the vehement negative reaction to Joe Biden for his support of Israel. Now, you could say that Joe Biden maybe shouldn't have exercised, but he definitely was trying to exercise it. But you then went against Joe Biden, you undermined him, you didn't vote for him, and now you have Donald Trump that's talking about turning Gaza into a strip mall with, I have this
for the rich
Trump hotel names on top of all these buildings, displacing already displaced people. They were displaced from other parts of Palestine into Gaza, and now after a couple generations, they're displaced again to go where?
Yeah,
because Trump wants to make it the Riviera of the Eastern Mediterranean. It's just absurd, and it's a way of losing sight of. You're voting for the man who said he wanted to exclude people from Muslim countries in his first term.
Right. Yeah,
seriously,
I just didn't see that on the campaign trail. That's all. Hotel Trump in Gaza. Just didn't see that one. Wasn't broadcast. Was not broadcast.
Must have missed that one.
It'll be the same.
Must have missed that one.
As Trump Hotel Moscow.
So also, there was a nice little Enrique Tarrio's back in the news today. And
why does that name sound familiar?
Oh, he's a Proud Boy.
Oh, that guy.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So here's a little footage of him getting arrested in Washington, D.C. outside of the Capitol today.
Dude, I'd like to pass this
Come on, no, you threw the phone out.
I'd like to.
Come here.
So that's the thing. These people think that they can just do whatever they want. And this is what it starts with. It starts with throwing a phone, just intimidating and whatever. That's how it all starts.
Well, I guess he thinks Uncle Donald's going to give him another pardon.
Probably will.
Well, Donald Trump actually just extended what the J6 pardon is to some weapon charges and other things. We'll see if he starts pardoning any P files because that's been happening to some of those
He already
J6ers. So
has.
we'll
Yeah, he
see.
already has.
Has he
You know,
extended it to them as well?
Well,
I just find it
he
funny that these
pardoned them,
criminals.
and whether he knew that they were,
No, they have other charges that were not, and they were asking to be charged. So I don't know
Oh,
if
I know
he's done
that.
that yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think he's done that yet.
But I love how criminals always go back to the scene of the crime though to get caught. So let's just say that's how stupid this man is. That
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the Capitol and get arrested.
you know what I
again.
mean? Like for not on what random
When you're-
And like,
situation.
and again, maybe
when you
it's just
start for
me.
a test, what do you expect?
I was about to say maybe it's just me, but if I got pardoned for all my stuff, I would probably go home and play some video games or something. I don't think I'd be out trying to get arrested again. Like,
Well, look, let's talk about the pardon power. I do have a criticism of the end of the Biden administration, his prospective pardons. That was kind of first done when Gerald Ford had pardoned Richard Nixon, which I think in retrospect, it's been accepted as probably the right thing to have done to help the country move on. But he pardoned him for any prospective crimes. Kind of the first time that ever happened. Now, Joe Biden did that with people like Anthony Fauci, et cetera, which then, of course, emboldens Trump to do the same thing. The pardon power on that is really undefined. I personally thought, okay, if Donald Trump wants to send people to prosecute Anthony Fauci, have at it. I'm not happy what it would do for Anthony Fauci, but really, that man was the face of curing us from COVID.
Right.
With anybody with sense, his public approval was very high. You go after men like Anthony Fauci, it's not going to go well for you. And I wished that President Biden had not offered that pardon of Fauci and others in that category. And now Trump feels emboldened to do the same thing, pardoning people prospectively for the future actions, for future prosecution.
Which,
I think
well, I mean, he did that his first term though.
yeah,
which one?
Trump.
Oh, well, yeah, but see, his
with
first
like
term,
Kushner and everybody when he's
And then
when
he
was
just
throwing
and then he
those
just
out.
appointed Kushner's father, who he pardoned in his first term, and now
Yeah.
he's the ambassador to France. So
Yeah.
I see what
And
you're
Robert,
saying,
I give you
but
a little bit of pushback on that. Yeah,
and I think because I see a different side of it, because I'm online all the time and I see like they're foaming at the mouth that they can't go after Hunter Biden and Anthony Fauci. And I think Biden saw exactly what was going to happen. And
Right.
Anthony Fauci's given us what, 30, 40, 50 years of service at the end of the day. Give that man a pardon, send him on his way, and let them all foam at the mouth.
Which I say about Fauci is that they were going to try to use those as the distraction while, put that all through the news, get all that out there, see whatever,
Yep.
especially with the way that they're doing now Doge, with just, there's no actual information that they're releasing. They're just talking about something.
And everybody's
we
buying
found
it.
Billions. And they really are buying it. But I think
Like,
that
have you guys asked for evidence of any of this yet?
Yeah. And actually it's funny about it because someone floated the idea. It's like, well, Biden didn't pardon himself. So if Trump really wants to do something, go after Biden. You guys called him, the head of the crime family. Go after him.
Well,
See what
here's
happens.
the problem
Go after
that
him.
they have a certain problem with Biden. They always have. They never got their narrative straight, and I'm talking about Fox News as well. On the one hand, he was too befuddled to be president, but on the other hand, he was like some kind of
mastermind.
He's known in these streets, man. Sleepy Joe.
You can't be senile and the Godfather at the same time. Okay, it just doesn't work. So they never got the narrative.
How is he Sleepy Joe and Dark Brandon? It's like he's living two different lives, man.
Exactly.
That was when I really first realized that it didn't matter what evidence we showed, what court documents we showed, what videos we showed, what audio we gave them. They are going to come up with a way to excuse the person that they support, no matter what you tell them and show them.
Right.
And it's like, you can't.
They're insidious. They're insidious about the way they do it.
100%.
I'll give you an example. For some reason, I was watching Fox News, just whatever. And they had a report about a undocumented person who had shot a police officer. And first of all, the shooting of a police officer is terrible. It's tragic. But it's usually not national news. So they made that story national news. And at the end of the story, they said 38 officers have been shot so far this year in the line of duty, implying that they had been shot by persons who are undocumented.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Most police officers who are shot by citizens of the United States. but they created now there was nothing per se factually inaccurate in the information, but their structuring of the story was insidious to provide another, and it takes a certain level of critical thinking skills that they just take advantage of the fact people do not exercise with.
Also, don't give them too much credit. Officers shoot each other as well. Their aim is not immaculate. All right. No. They just had a shooting here on the train where officers shot not only civilians, but also another officer over someone who didn't pay $250 for a train ticket.
Oh my God.
Well,
and you're sitting here like, really? That's what we're doing? That's the serious crime we're looking at right now, where people are getting shot?
Yeah.
So they shoot themselves.
Most police officers are not particularly good shots.
It should be against the law to pull your gun out for $2.50.
Right. There's two reasons. Sometimes police departments do not finance the training of their officers at firearms. They have to pay for their own bullets and guns often. And I think that's actually wrong. The other is,
I do too, actually.
It's one thing to train, but you can't train at the level of adrenaline when something happens. I have dealt with homicide cases, defended cases. I remember a case of a juvenile where a juvenile shot off 2 rounds, didn't go anyplace, and they point blank shot the back of the car this juvenile was 47 rounds, and they only grazed the kid 2 times. And these are officers who are shooting point blank, who are supposed to know how to shoot.
Yeah.
And it just happens with adrenaline like that.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So, how we got on this, I'm not sure, because it's not exactly.
I don't know.
Sorry, we were just talking about police officers, and that's.
Which the news that came out, Ryan, about Trump's deleting of data, I think that's a good transition.
Yes.
Yeah, let me find it. So the U.S. Justice Department has come out and said, or let me rephrase. The U.S. Justice Department has removed a database tracking misconduct by federal law enforcement, a list proposed by Republican President Donald Trump during his first term and formerly created by Democratic former President Joe Biden. The website of the National Law Enforcement Accountability Database appeared to have been taken down as of Thursday. The removal was first reported by the Washington Post. So
we're talking about misconduct.
Well, here's what's going on. Yeah. Here's what's going on here. That database is kept for various reasons. One is for personnel decisions, policy decisions, but it's also kept for criminal litigation. A prosecutor has an obligation to turn over anything that is considered exculpatory. The case is Brady versus Maryland, comes from the 1920s, and prosecutors as ministers of justice have a duty to turn over anything exculpatory, including that if you're a witness, if you have something that makes you not credible, like that you've been disciplined, like that you lied in a police report you wrote 2 years ago, or that you went on the witness stand and perjured yourself, or you decided to beat up black people because you just beat up black people.
Right.
That relates to your credibility, and it has to be disclosed. If it's not disclosed, and this is basic Fifth and Sixth Amendment issues, if it's not disclosed, that prosecution now can be overturned when it's found out later. So the purpose of that database was to effect better prosecution, to make sure that information gets turned over. This is key constitutional criminal procedure. So once you get rid of this thing, you just allow officers to act with impunity, but you've now threatened good prosecution. Good prosecutors have no trouble turning this information over, and they account for it in their cases. And that's why our criminal justice system works. So this is
But you also think about the cop that does, horrible things in Arizona, for example, and then they go and get a job in Jersey because they can't clearly work in the state of Arizona. But that database would show up in their record where then the police station or organization here in Jersey or New York or whatever would be like, well, you're on the file here, so it would not be good to bring you into our organization here. But now with that gone, how many bad cops, bad apples that we've all talked about are now going to be spreading around to poison the basket? So what are we looking at here?
Absolutely. I think that's a valid concern, as well as the very issues related to trial procedure and the rights of a criminal defendant who's charged. So
when we talk about protect and serve, who's who are we protecting? Who are we serving? Is going to be the real question at this point.
Right. I mean, the key part of our Constitution is it has embodied a whole range of criminal procedure rights that have grown up over time through the history of the common law and other areas, which has been kind of the marvel of real fairness in criminal procedure across the world. Other countries want to emulate our criminal justice system because of its openness and this. And so once you start eroding that, it starts to become very sad indeed.
Yeah. So I also wanted to ask you about something that just happened and the constitutionality of it, because we're talking about Doge and Elon Musk. And, and I keep reminding everybody that Elon Musk is just a con man. He's literally arguing in court right now that he didn't break election laws in Pennsylvania for a month and a half because he was telling everybody that the $1 million giveaway was going to be randomly drawn every day. Turns out that they were all paid actors and he conned you all. So that's literally his argument in court. And now he's Doge, that they're getting sued. They've had to come out, and Donald Trump has had to say, well, he's really just an advisor for me. So there really isn't a position that he holds. Right. So once again, just like he did the first time, he let Ivanka and all them into the White House. They didn't hold any actual position, but they had offices in there. Right. So now the way that they're going to get around everything, it seems, is to say, well, Elon Musk is just he's policing himself, and he's not restricted by any of those things because he doesn't actually hold a federal position approved by Congress. So this dude's just in the gray area, just doing whatever he wants for Donald Trump. Right. And now the part I want to ask you about is his private security has been deputized by the United States Marshal Service. Mm-hmm. So is there any legal precedent for that happening?
None. Absolutely not.
Is there any legal reason for that to happen?
No. Look, let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about constitutional structure and the structure.
Yeah, please.
Okay. The United States of America has what's called a unitary executive. The Constitution says the power of the executive shall be vested in the President of the United States. Okay. Now, many states, for instance, do not have unitary executives. The state of Arizona has a governor who has executive power. It has an attorney general separately elected with executive power, a secretary of state, treasurer. All of these offices in the federal government are all under the presidency, but in states they're not. They're non-unitary structures of executive power. But the American government's unitary executive, what's called a weak unitary executive, because it has checks and balances from Congress and the Senate. Senate approves, has to ratify presidential appointments to those offices. Many of those cabinet positions are only there because they were created by acts of Congress through legislation. So what Elon Musk is doing is he has not been given any of the posts provided for by statute or by the Constitution. The Constitution does create some offices, but most are created by acts of Congress. So he seems to be just floating around with some residual power that comes from the President of the United States, exercising things. But the trouble is the president, for instance, if the president wants to get rid of the Department of Education, he's under the obligation to follow and faithfully execute the law. So you've got his little patsy, Elon Musk, who's now violating the president's own duties in trying to wipe out the Department of Education when there's an entire statute and budget allocated for its operation. And there's this huge area of just pure ambiguity. All Elon Musk is constitutionally is an extension of Donald Trump and the president. He has no other authority or anything else because he's never been appointed or approved by Congress, by the Senate with ratification. Right. So him running around doing all this stuff, it is a dubious constitutional and legality. And he is able to create
which to interject on what you're saying, sure. He never has to sit in front of the Senate for any type of hearing, no committee or anything. He doesn't have to answer for any of this.
No, he doesn't. Now, a secretary of, let's say, the Interior or whatever, they have to, it's Homeland Security. They're obliged to do so because Congress has oversight because they were created by acts of Congress.
Yeah.
And so that's how that worked. And now, just realize the Republicans have been totally craven and not fulfilling their congressional duty. And the only way that they can be saved from themselves is for the midterm elections to go with Democrats gaining control.
Right.
It's just the realities of this for any kind of constitutional balance to come in. What is happening?
There is a roadblock that may pop up this April
Yes,
with a seat that's open for a special election,
it could change,
and also here in New York.
House.
Yeah,
Yeah, it could change the balance in the House, which all of a sudden changes things night and day, because all of those committee persons, those chairs, all turn. Mike Johnson is now sitting in a much smaller
minority.
office.
That's
He's
right.
got to move out of the big office and go to the little minority leader office.
That's right. And Hakeem Jeffries can take over the main position, where I think they would move as one voice.
Yeah. Also,
Fetterman, who knows what John Fetterman's going to do? That's Ryan's favorite. I don't know what
who knows what that. But
Ryan loves him.
You get this. Well, it totally changes the dynamic in Washington, D.C., even if one house of Congress goes the other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And frankly, not unhealthy. I mean, Americans like balance, and if it's responsible and good, it can work. Divided government can work well as long as you're focused on what really is important. And the trouble is, MAGA is not.
No.
But the big flaw and the big assault of democracy from the Republican Party in the House of Representatives is the Hastert rule. Because the Hastert rule is we're only going to pass something if we have a majority of our majority. Okay, so they want to cut out all the Democrats on any piece of major legislation. Well, what that does is it cuts out the ability to compromise and do what the most of American people want, is something reasonable in the middle.
Yeah.
So they've locked themselves in. The Hastert rule is utterly democratic because it allows about 30 congresspersons, the Freedom Caucus, to dictate the agenda for the entire nation. Well, that's just undemocratic. That's absurd. That's not what the American people want. So,
speaking of undemocratic and absurd, this is Netanyahu speaking with Elon Musk. So I'm just going to play it and then see what y'all think.
Well, you can't be president of the U.S. Last time I checked, right? But assume you are.
Not officially.
Not officially. Okay, so you're the unofficial president.
So, just Netanyahu saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, and Elon Musk couldn't resist bragging.
No, because his ego wouldn't let him.
No, I mean, real power people know how to work behind the scenes and get stuff done. Elon Musk joking about it is a level of hubris that is just shocking and will be his downfall.
I sure hope so.
Right. Now, it has not been Donald Trump's downfall, but,
my concern is, Robert, is that the reason that these men aren't falling is because too many of the rich people we keep talking about, the 1%ers, that they're also invested in all these business interests, especially with Musk. Right. Anybody that's got stock in Tesla or SpaceX or whatever, it's like if he fails, they fail.
You mean America, who's been subsidizing all of his companies?
Yeah. Once again, just the fact that we're letting somebody who has no official position in the federal government, probably has no clearance, definitely doesn't have a top secret clearance, and we're allowing him to come in, and there's this is insanity.
How much of these databases are going to end up in Tesla's hands?
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Musk's hand. I mean, hard drives can be copied.
Well, Tesla, he's trying to get he's trying to get out of the car business. He's trying to get into the AI software business.
But SpaceX is taking over some FAA positions.
Right.
They're going to step in and help out on our airplane problem.
So again, how is somebody that's been a welfare queen that has received over $13 billion in taxpayer money? How are we going to let this guy just have at it and pillage our government? And the people that are okay with this, it's like, you're wondering why people are talking about make sure you go get your ammo, make sure you get your guns? People are effing insane.
Yeah, one house of Congress changing can really change this dynamic.
We need it. We need to have some kind of safety valve.
I fully agree. And look at some of the math. You have one house of Congress that can bring articles of impeachment. It has to be a simple majority. And depending on what happens with the composition of the Senate, you could actually have a conviction. You've got to go 3/4 in the House per the Constitution to do that. So there. By the way, you do know that one of the names for the Tesla car is now, people are calling it the swastika car.
Swastika cars. Yeah. The swastika truck and swastika cars.
Swastika
Loving
truck. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
that actually fits pretty well for that.
A lot of protests all over the world on Tesla.
And, man.
Yeah.
So with that, let's start getting into well, actually, I want to get into Trump, what he said, because we're talking about constitutional crisis. So I just want to play this video before we go any further. This one shocked me today. Like I keep waking up thinking, you know what? I'm not going to be shocked by what happens today. And then I end up shocked by what happens. I just, one of these days I'm going to learn. I don't know when it's going to be, but probably in the next 4 years.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be an elected politician.
So what's your no? I want to hear what Robert's response to that is.
Well, I'm saying, does the childishness ever end?
No.
It always. I thought her response was, perfectly fine. This little childish, bullish stuff, with no knowledge of what actually is being talked about, and just he does not have the power to just end funding because he doesn't like a governor. Yep. He just doesn't. It's not.
And they're talking.
And just for the record, just so you both know, Kamala Harris won that state by 52.4%, and Trump won it by he got his percentage as 45.46. So he did not win it or get close by winning anything. And she had that in the bag.
He's just made it more popular too, hasn't he?
And just for context, what he's talking about is the NCAA came out and said that they weren't going to allow transgender athletes. Now, I also want to remind folks, again, not trying to start a cult, just trying to educate people. So go Google this, look it up for yourself. They brought the head of the NCAA in front of Congress like a month or two ago, and they asked him, how many transgender athletes exactly do you have in the NCAA out of the 100,000 plus athletes? Yeah. He said, more than 5, less than 10.
Right.
That was the man's answer. Now, if you go look up at what the population of the American people and how many of them are transgender, it's literally less than 1%.
Correct.
So when you see what they are doing and how they are bending over backwards to throw this red meat out to their people, acting like this is 20% of the American population walking into bathrooms and blah, 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 it's ridiculous. Yeah, and so you're sitting there using it as this fear monger and again, trying to bully this woman when in reality, it's like, you're an idiot. You're fear mongering over such a small population of the American people, and on top of it, and he's also making it so that transgender people can't serve in the military because apparently being transgender means that you can't defend his right to be a dumb fuck. But here we are. Yeah. So I can't believe we are here as a veteran. I can't believe what we are seeing. I can't believe how many Americans are willing to just sit back and let this happen. And not get serious about what are we going to do?
Well, but let's kind of refocus this. Yeah, I think most Americans are getting tired of this too, and they didn't vote for him because of this. They vote for him because they perceived that he could make their daily life better, and he is not doing it because again, incompetent. So you want to get off into a little tiff with the governor of Maine on some silly issue that doesn't apply other than people are crazy about the culture wars. And right now the price of eggs and everything else is going up and he's leading us into a recession.
Right.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, if you look at facts and policy, the Biden presidency was a successful presidency.
Yes, sir.
By any objective measure.
Major.
Yes, sir.
Major. On his last month in office, he was setting us up for success with the bird flu. 300 million towards setting up Americans to make sure that this is not going to eradicate the industry. And I bet you, come June, Donnie Boy over here is going to start taking credit for the work that was laid at the foot of Biden walking out of office.
Well, look at the statistics on immigration enforcement. Joe Biden far exceeded. Because if you look at Holman, I mean, when you're running around insulting states or whatever, sanctuary cities, which, by the way, nobody knows what that means. What does it mean to be a sanctuary city? There's no real definition of that, okay?
No.
But you're running around, so you're not developing partnerships with local law enforcement that could help you get the information. They want to claim that they're going to harness local law enforcement, but I want local law enforcement to protect me from burglars.
Right.
Who predominantly are not illegal aliens, to use that term, undocumented.
Yes, sir.
What they are U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess that transitions into how you chokehold, a mayor, much like New York, and you dangle freedom in front of them,
right? I mean, that's
and threaten them on Fox News with the border czar, with Tom Holland, Holland, whatever.
I don't know. I don't care enough to say it right.
Well, and actually, when he's on the news talking with Eric Adams, he just basically admits that there was a quid pro quo here.
100%. They always tell on themselves.
He's like, if he doesn't, I'm going to be banging on his door. Like,
I mean, as a criminal defense lawyer, I'm thinking, oh my God, there's all these admissions against my client.
He's like, shut up.
On national TV. And by the way, there's an evidentiary ruling, kind of an exception to the hearsay rules, admission of a party opponent. Okay, well, Holman is the party opponent admitting to the existence of a quid pro quo to dismiss a criminal action. And by the way, if Eric Adams loses that election, which is likely, then Donald Trump's going to throw him back to the wolves because he's not going to do good.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't be surprised.
He'll be useless to him anymore.
Right. So the Department of Justice goes back. But I have never seen a more blatant example in American history of just quid pro quo like that to dismiss a valid criminal. And by the way, I have to applaud the Department of Justice lawyers who resigned rather than that dismissal. Yes. One of them, I think, was actually a Trumper, but he stood
appointed by Trump.
Yep.
Right. He stood up and said no, as did all the way up the line.
There's a lot of people that are doing it.
Yeah. And it's the fight has been starting with women. If you've not noticed this, the first one, she was like, I'm not taking this case. And I'm not doing this, and I'm walking out. And that was the first domino that showed the backbone of actually who is standing their ground in this country. This governor, they have more to say than a lot of these men who are sitting there looking like subs in the back, just watching Donnie do everything to them. And it's really quite interesting to see how this plays out, because it's the women who are on the forefront who are giving him all the pushback, at least the start of it.
If you look at the first term, I was never particularly a Nancy Pelosi fan, but she came into her own during Trump's first term. Yeah. And I've always said, was it her ability to work for decades with powerful men, egotistical men, that allowed her to stick it to Donald Trump? Or was it her ability as a mother and grandmother to deal with petulant children that was secret to her success? And I'll give you just the one example. When Trump's, they were going to shut down government, and Trump says, yeah, I did it. She baited him into saying it. He said it. Then she sat back and shut up and let it hang in the air. And he got blamed for that government shutdown.
Yep.
Brilliant action on her part.
And, she was a masterclass.
Yep, she was.
She was a masterclass.
Came into her own there, and we were very well served by her in that role. And I'm glad she's stepped down to let new leadership take over.
Yeah. So I just hope that Hakeem Jeffries can match that type of energy.
I think so. I have a suspicion that AOC learned her lessons from her too.
Yeah.
Ryan and I have talked about that in the past. She's learned a lot from Nancy. We really do believe so.
What I like about AOC too, before we go into Trump thinking he's a king, is she's putting in her time. I think it was I think it was a blessing that she was young, so young that she couldn't run for president and all that stuff. Like, she's been putting her time in. I like that she's starting to put her, her hat in the ring for bigger positions within Congress. I hope to see her win one of those very soon. I like people that put in their time. When you see somebody like Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and all these losers, And then you flip the script and you go look at people like AOC and Jasmine Crockett and Kamala Harris, who literally, went to law school, became a DA, then the AG for California, then a senator, then vice president. Like, that woman literally put her heel on every rung of the ladder on the way up. Right. And it's like, to me, that's one of the reasons I liked her, because you can say what you want about her, but she's got the experience. She's done the work. Yeah. Like, and out of everybody that was up on that stage, she was the one person that actually freaking deserved it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, here we are. Now we're dealing with this guy who thinks the White House putting out on their social media this kind of propaganda is the right thing to do. Like,
yeah. Yeah, you just really wonder. There's a raging kind of debate. Is Trump kind of brilliant in that sense? I have maintained, and I continue to maintain, that he is not very bright, that he has a series of neurotic behaviors that have been rewarded, and absolute shamelessness. But his lack of ability to grasp any policy nuance in anything is just indicative of a person who's just not that terribly bright. Yep. And his behaviors are unfettered, and it has been rewarded, and it's continued to reward him even now. And his view of himself is so out of touch with what's really going on.
Yeah.
His superpower is marketing. His superpower is absorbing and sucking up all the oxygen in the room. He doesn't know the micro. He doesn't know how to get things done. He knows how to take away the headlines and to really distract, which makes him the best candidate. And I said this to Ryan, and I was just like, the Republicans don't have anybody on the backbench because he has become too big, too bright of a star of their party that there's nobody who's going to stand up to be that charismatic, which is why they're all pushing this third term conversation. They want to keep him around, which I know.
It violates the 22nd Amendment. But
complete.
Well, here's the question. I mean, here's the posed question for us, which is, does Trumpism survive Trump? And I think the indicators are no, it can't, because nobody's been able to ever take any. Now, that could be because Trump's ego will not allow anybody else. And perhaps when he's off the stage, they're trying to groom J.D. Vance for it, who would be a more.
They're not going to follow him.
But I don't think people are going to do this. He's unique in this. And I don't think that's going to happen. I do agree that he has a certain self-interested cunning, but in terms of higher understanding and strategic ability, I don't really attribute.
No,
nor does he have the work ethic. I mean, come on, he's been golfing most of his presidency since he's been in office, so he doesn't have it. That's why Elon
between the Super Bowl, the Daytona 500, and all his golfing trips, he spent more time outsed of the office.
Well, and more money.
Millions and more money. A lot more money.
So,
I wonder if
way to go, America.
Well, and the thing is too, I mean, let this sink in. I think we're all under this thing. This is horrible, but let it sink in. Okay. He's now then taken over the Postal Service, fired the board of directors. Okay. The reason why the Postal Service has a big problem is they, at a loss, make sure that farmers way out in some rural area get their mail. It's not economically viable, but we do it because that's the job of the Postal Service. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now all of a sudden, those people way out in rural areas that were so pro-Trump are going to have to drive 50 miles to get their letters and their bills. All of a sudden, things take a little bit different turn. There's greater government efficiency in getting rid of that, but that's not the point of government. Sometimes government is supposed to be inefficient in order to serve the people.
It's supposed to, providing services isn't always efficient.
No. So this is what starts to sink in. When you don't get it, when your Social Security check starts coming late because of this incompetency, there's that. The tax structure, all that. A great quote from the Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., who once wrote, "I don't mind paying taxes because with them I buy civilization."
Amen.
Well, what happens when civilization starts to go away out in rural someplace, and that Trump sign doesn't look so good anymore on your yard?
Ain't that the truth? And everybody, that's why we have a constitutional lawyer here with us. If you're just joining us, we have Robert McWhirter, and you have a book, I believe, and my business partner over there has a copy. So can you? So tell us a quick little elevator pitch here of what.
And I love the cover, by the way. Me and my Tubman over here, she's leaning on me. Boy, this is Black history in the movement right here.
Oh, Harriet Tubman is a hero of mine.
Yeah.
And just wonderful. Talk about a person. She escaped and went back some 22 times to bring people out. One of her great quotes was, "I can honestly say that I was a conductor on the railroad for 22 visits or 22 trips. And I can honestly say that most can't. I never once lost a passenger, and I never once had a train go off the rail." God love her.
Love.
I'm telling you.
Look, the title of the book is Fixing the Framers' Failure. And what I mean by that is the framers gave us this brilliant concept of a liberal democracy, and all men are created equal. They gave us that, but they failed to live up to their own words. And we have been working to fix that failure, the original birth defect of the way we treated African Americans and Native Americans ever since. And a key portion of that in the book centers on the passing of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. That restructured America. A lot of these arguments about federal government overreach is an argument that's based before the Civil War amendments, which was 1865, 1868, and 1870 for those three amendments. And they don't realize that this changed the entire structure of American government to fix the framers' failure. And we go 2 steps forwards and 1 step back, but we're slowly getting better. And that's really what that book is about. I guess that's the elevator speech for the book.
That's perfect.
No, I love it.
And I like that. And I like that because so many people like to invoke the founding fathers and say, "Oh, you think you know better, than the founding fathers." It's like, I'm not saying I know better. I'm saying it's been 245 years. Like,
okay, let's kind of deal with that directly. The founding fathers are great. I know more about what they passed than most people around, and I'm great admirers of them. But they also failed. They I think in their day they created a structure for us to be better than they were, and they knew that.
Yeah.
They intended that.
Yeah.
They created ways for us to improve, to fulfill their vision. They gave us the vision, and they knew they couldn't do it all in their own day. It allowed us the chance to expand. So that, I think, is part of their genius. Whenever there's a constitutional amendment, it reshuffles the deck of what the original intent was. The original intent of the framers was that women would not vote. The original intent of the framers of the 19th Amendment is that they do vote. When you talk about women voting, and this is an obvious example, the framers, what James Madison thought about women voting is irrelevant now.
Right.
It's the framers of the 19th. Now, the same thing with the 15th Amendment. The framers of the U.S. Constitution did not intend Black people to have the vote.
Right.
Their intent no longer matters on that question. What matters is the framers of I think it was the 38th to the 42nd Congress that framed the 15th Amendment, passed it through the country in 1870, ratified by the requisite number of states, as the Constitution provides in Article 5, to amend the Constitution. Those framers are what matters, not what James Madison thought about this issue. He matters on other issues that are still relevant, but not on this. The same with the 13th, 14th, and all subsequent amendments. Each one of those ends with Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation, which totally shuffled the deck of federalism and allowed for the Bill of Rights to apply to us directly. We talk about our First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. If you would have been in this country in the 1800s, you probably wouldn't have said that.
Right.
Which say, my state constitution gives this right to me. No, we talk about the First Amendment. So
I really want to push on this is because, we have this, and I love the way you framed it of, they were better. They thought about the future.
Right.
Yes. Blacks were 3/5 a man. Like that's like all these things of you guys will figure it out and make it better for your time. The fact that we're over here trying to fight about a constitution that was written by candlelight, like where we are today, they couldn't have the foresight of EV or anything that was around there at this time. So of course the amendments are there, But why do we have a Congress that fights so hard to, or federalists that are like, we need to read the original text. This is what it is. And it's like, yes, but there are things that need to change. And one thing I mentioned to you guys, which is going to be, and we're going to talk about this at a later time. This is HR 22, the SAVE Act, which was introduced. Okay. And Robert, we're going to have you come back on, and I want you to read what this is, because, and for everybody who can actually see it, I know it's a little bright.
There he goes.
For anybody who can see it, this has been introduced, and this is the SAVE Act, and I want people to unpack it. I want people to look into this. This right here, which was introduced by this kind of Project 2025 mentality, as we know, the checklist has been going up through the ranks. SAVE Act is going to stop, for example, women being able to vote if they change their last name. It's going to be focused on women who have, or people whose last names match their name at birth. Well, how many people does that affect? And who does that affect? How many men are changing their name when they get married? So the SAVE Act is something that I want people to really open up your minds, go read this document, and go look at it. But Robert, we're gonna definitely deep dive this in another episode. But this is, I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but this is something I just want people to be aware of. Just get it out there, look at it.
Keep up with everything right now.
But see, this is the point of all the BS that's out there, and it's like, but this is the laws that they're trying to, or the what they're trying to actually implement into our Constitution.
Yeah.
Well, you actually some of these folks say, "Oh, we should repeal the 19th Amendment because they don't like voting patterns of women."
Yep.
And here we are, the SAVE Act.
And by the way, women, for all you that voted for Trump, I don't know who needs to hear this, but DEI applies to you.
And he told you, he said, if you vote for me, you won't have to vote again. This is what he was
or you won't get to vote again. Wording matters.
Look, you may want to deal with this for another show, but you just mentioned originalism, this Federalist Society. Originalism. Yes. Here's the problem with originalists is their inconsistency. It's not a per se bad constitutional theory, but they only want to apply it to the topics that they want.
Right.
They don't want to do it. To give you just one example, the original intent of the framers of the Constitution was to have jury nullification, to have jurors say, okay, I don't think this guy should be guilty, even though he is. We have read that out of the Constitution. Well, they don't ever, right. The original son of the Supreme Court will never even entertain a question like that.
Yeah.
And again, you have to go with the original intent. There's a branch of originalism called progressive originalism, which centers on the original intent of the framers of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. That gives you a whole different way of understanding government structure and what was intended by those amendments. So that's the problem with originalists, is their utter inconsistency, and they harness it when they fits their ideology, but they don't take it to its own logical conclusions.
And we're seeing that firsthand on the Supreme Court because of how many play that game.
I would like to. I have no faith in Justice Thomas or Alito. If you take the very same question that they are presented and say, put the president as Joe Biden, they will find the same issue opposite the way they will find it under Donald Trump.
Correct. I have zero faith in the Supreme Court protecting us at this point.
I have a little more faith in some of the others, but not those two.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, I know there are
Amy
and
Roberts are showing me a little different side of, and we'll see. We'll see when with this case coming up right now. That's
I agree.
So that's going to be a telling tale.
Who I would look for to have a change is Amy Coney Barrett, and don't count out Brett Kavanaugh. He may just surprise us and redeem himself.
Well,
if that's the case, I'm going to get a beer.
I'll be more than happy to be wrong. But I want to read out to all the MAGA Trump simps who are trolling and undoubtedly watching this. And I just want to ask you this question. If this were anybody else in government but Donald freaking Trump, what would your reaction be? This is literally, he posted this.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it. A modestly successful comedian, Volodymyr Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed, while the United States will get nothing back. Why didn't Sleepy Joe demand equalization? In that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us. We have a big, beautiful ocean as separation. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him is missing. He refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukraine polls, and the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle. A dictator without elections, Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something I'll admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered and millions have unnecessarily died. And so it continues. Bitch, listen, I don't care who you are. If you're going to start simping for Russia and Vladimir Putin, you can come over here and lick these balls. Like
this,
I don't care. Like, you are allowing loyalists to get appointed. You want to talk about Kash Patel? Let's talk about Kash Patel for a second, who was just appointed to the FBI. And if you don't think that Kash Patel is going to come out here and start investigations on anybody that Trump wants, stop investigations on anybody that Trump wants and do whatever the hell he wants, then you're insane. So let's see what Justice AI has to say about Kash Patel. He's a former government official and lawyer who has been involved in various roles within the Trump administration and has been a vocal figure in conservative politics. Some of the criticisms and negatives associated with him include allegations of partisanship. Critics argue that Patel often acted more as a political loyalist rather than an impartial government official, particularly in his roles related to intelligence and national security. Involvement in Ukraine scandal. Patel was accused of working to undermine the intelligence community's findings on Russian interference in the 2016 election and was reportedly involved in efforts to shape U.S. policy on Ukraine outside of normal channels. Controversial role in intelligence matters. As a key figure in reviewing intelligence related to the Russian investigation, Patel has been accused of downplaying Russian intelligence and promoting narratives favorable to Donald Trump. January 6th investigation. Patel was subpoenaed by the House committee investigating the January 6th Capitol attack due to his role in the Trump administration's Pentagon transition and potential involvement in delayed National Guard deployment. Mishandling of classified information. There have been concerns about Patel's handling of classified information, including his claims that he was given permission to access sensitive documents related to Trump. Ties to media and misinformation. Patel has been involved in conservative media circles and has been accused of promoting misleading narratives regarding government investigations, particularly concerning Trump and the FBI. And the fucking cherry on top for all you nimrods out there is going to be, if you go ask Elon Musk's own fucking AI who spreads the most misinformation, you know what it's going to tell you? Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Alex Jones, and Russian TV.
Ryan Rant.
So
I kind of like on this show the level of discourse from fairly sophisticated constitutional analysis right down to that. We got range, baby. We got range.
You had me at balls, Ryan, and then you went into Professor Rye, and let me tell you, it started as a Ryan Rant, and I go, but Ryan Rant can read. So here it is. Here it is.
I told you the other night, man, I don't know what happened. I couldn't read the other night.
I'm just kind of impressed by your cardiovascular capacity to keep that going the whole time. Did you?
Oh,
thank you.
That's right. He hasn't seen a Ryan Rant.
He hasn't seen
Robert,
one yet.
You have not seen a real. That was Ryan Rant light. Okay, let me tell you. A real Ryan Rant, we sit back and we just enjoy the show.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets a little. Speaking of, I do want to take a quick second because we've got over 2,000 people in here. So we're going to be moving our show to Wednesdays. We're doing that for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're doing it so that Ian doesn't get divorced. And number two,
you stop watching the show. Don't worry.
Yeah, no. But we're doing it too for analytic reasons. You know, Friday nights, a lot of people, you know, they're done for the week. They kind of want to unplug. So we're going to move to Wednesdays and see what that does to our analytics as well. But it also is going to work out better for us in our personal lives. So that's another reason that we're doing it. So we hope you guys will continue to join us on Wednesday nights. I think it'll be a little better. I think by Friday, a lot of us we just want to unplug, get ready for the weekend, and just not think about Monday through Thursday. So we'll be.
I don't want to be Pete Hegseth. I don't want to drink at the job. I'm just telling you right now. I just don't, guys. It's Friday. I just see it looking at me. It looks delicious.
He didn't even make it like a week, man.
So you know what? Yeah.
Speaking of,
but like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. Robert's here with us. We're gonna have him join us a number of times because we need to have this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Where we are all together, in a way of a more of a constitutional therapy session. So we really appreciate how you're really breaking down a lot of this, even those random questions. And guys, if you ever feel free. Right in the comments.
If you guys have questions
ask
for Robert,
a question. If there is something that you really feel, please.
I mean,
he doesn't bite.
We, honestly, we sent him a message a couple of days ago. It was like, hey, is there any chance you can come on, because so much is happening, and we also got such a good feedback from the first show. People really enjoyed somebody who can actually explain it to them. A Ryan rant is great, for entertainment purposes, but having an actual attorney, and a constitutionalist sit down and explain to us, how unprecedented this is, how concerning it really is, take all the propaganda, take all the, the politics out of it. These are facts. This is what's happening. And this is how it applies to the Constitution, or I should say, this is how the Constitution applies to what's happening. And so I really enjoy that. And so guys, please ask questions. It educates us all. And with that, I do want to take a second and go at Pete Hegseth, since you mentioned him. So Pete Hegseth has come out and said that he is going to open an investigation into the Afghanistan withdrawal. Now, as a veteran, this pisses me off on several levels. And one of the things that pisses me off is they keep saying, oh, well, they left all all these cars and Humvees and computers and weapons and whatever. And it's like, all right, first off, the stuff that they left there, most of it was inoperable. Like, they literally have people that do my job go around, sheet metal guys, mechanics, whatever, and they literally have us destroy shit so that it can't be used. All right. We'll take the engines out. We'll make it so they can't run, whatever. Like, they become paperweights. And most important, what I want to remind everybody of is, if you've never been in the military and you've never been overseas, then you wouldn't know that it takes an insane amount of maintenance to keep the Humvees, the helicopters, the aircraft. There's a reason they send all these people over there, because you have to maintain the crap, especially in the desert where there's sand. Believe it or not, a lot of military equipment doesn't like sand. So we're constantly working on it. So my question then becomes, so who do you think is going to operate all this stuff? Because when we sell our F-16s or our F-15s to another country, do you know what they do? They sign a contract with a company in the United States to send Americans over there to train them how to work on the planes. Like, they don't just magically know how to do this shit. So, and then I'm not trying to start a call here. Go Google this. This is real shit. It literally costs more money to pack up all that equipment, fly it back to the United States somewhere, find a place to put it. Oh, and by the way, if you live in Tucson like myself, then you drive by Davis-Monthan Air Force base every day, and you see that there are literally thousands of aircrafts out there that are covered up, ready to go in case something happens. So we already have a crap ton of military equipment that we don't use and we don't have a place for. So then, where are we going to put it? Where are we going to store it all? Bunch of land somewhere? Whose land is it going to be? Who's going to pay for it? You guys don't understand military operations, so please shut the fuck up. And when it comes to somebody like Pete Hegseth coming in and throwing red meat over the bodies of my fellow soldiers, it really pisses me off. So let's talk about Afghanistan for a second, shall we? So he wants to investigate, and I told him, I'll help you out. We can get rid of this right now. Donald Trump was president when that deal was made on February 29th of 2020. Part of that deal was also to release 5,000 Taliban prisoners. So when that deal was signed in 2020, they released the 5,000 prisoners. Now, fast forward to 2021. Joe Biden was presented with a timeline that was signed in the deal by Trump and his administration with the Taliban for us to be out by a certain time. Joe Biden asked for 2 extensions. He was granted the first one. The second extension, they denied him, said, you guys have to be out by August 31st, 2021. That's it. So Joe Biden did the best they can, and they got 120,000 people out in 31 days. Okay. Now, my next question is, who in their right mind can predict a suicide bomber? 5-time draft dodger felon Donald Trump sure as hell can't. Joe Biden can't, and hell, most military officers can't. So the whole premise that Joe Biden did this is insane. So I just, again, I like to fact check things. So using Justice AI, again, shout out to the sponsor of our podcast, Christian Ortiz, Mod Atlas, and Justice AI. We use their Justice AI to fact check things because we like to bring facts here instead of just feelings. So we back it up with information. I said, who signed the deal with the Taliban for the withdrawal of the American troops in Afghanistan? Answer, the deal with the Taliban for the withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan was signed by Zalmay Khalilzad, the U.S. Special Representative for Afghanistan Reconciliation on behalf of the United States. The agreement was formally signed on February 29th of 2020. Who was president on February 29th of 2020? Answer, on February 29th of 2020, the president of the United States was Donald Trump. And then I asked it, what day did Trump make the deal to release the 5,000 Taliban prisoners? The deal to release the 5,000 Taliban prisoners was made on February 29th, 2020 as part of the U.S. Taliban agreement. Now, the part that you all need to know is that one of the 5,000 Taliban people that was released ended up being the head of the Taliban at the time that deal was made. Or no, I'm sorry. He ended up being the head of the Taliban at the time where we were withdrawing everybody.
Where they took back that property. Yeah.
And not only so, you could argue that he was responsible for the suicide bomber. You making the
took out
do I need to draw y'all a fucking picture?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to do an investigation into a fucking problem that Donald Trump himself created. And you want to blame Democrats and liberals and Joe Biden. And the fact that not all of them, but some of the 13 soldiers' families allowed Donald Trump to use them and actually go to Arlington National Cemetery like that. And the fact that you assaulted one of the workers who told you not to do that because it was against the law, because you weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
That literally
Real
had
quick,
rules. What?
Your microphone might be echoing or something is echoing.
Because he's got his speaker on. He doesn't have the headphones in. This is ridiculous. This is more red meat for his freaking base. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Like, you guys are sitting back and you're letting this man gut our whole country. You're letting him just piss on the Constitution. And more importantly, why are law enforcement sitting there supporting a felon, a prolific business fraud, and then a literally adjudicated rapist? Like, the FBI just had their boss appointed to them by a felon and a rapist. Can we just talk about that? This is insanity. This is insanity. Yeah. And the fact that 78 million Americans supposedly voted for this, you make me want to drink. You people make me want to be an alcoholic. I swear to God.
It was a strong start, and the knowledge definitely slowed down another Ryan rant. It wanted to rev up. It was a good off ramp, though, Ryan.
I
will give you
that one really upsets me because
yes, this hits home.
Well, it's a waste of tax. No, it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. It's a waste of time. There aren't enough people that'll take 5 seconds to go Google. No. Or actually read an article. Just the amount of, I don't know if it's willful ignorance or
it is
complacency, or I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's going to cost us this republic if we don't wake the fuck up.
This administration is going to cost us if we do not stay engaged. And even talking with you guys, you gentlemen in the green room, about them firing the chairman of Joint Chiefs. Like, when you see that they're removing the adults from the room, the people who have actually kept this together. And you're like, for whatever reason he's going to throw out there, it's going to be out there. But Hegseth is going to use this, and it's going to become just a show. And the thing is that he's a paid pundit. He is great at reading the news. That was his career. Now that he has to be there to actually do a job, and we're watching all of these plane issues happen under his watch, like really right off the jump. You have to ask the question, like, what's going on? This is not the right candidate to keep America moving forward. So we're gonna have to see. But yeah, this right here just broke when we were just going live.
So President Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have abruptly fired Air Force General Charles C.Q. Brown, who had over 40 years of service to our country. Black gentleman, of course. So here's Trump's statement. He said, "I want to thank General Charles C.Q. Brown for his over 40 years of service to our country, including as our current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He is a fine gentleman and an outstanding leader, and I wish great future for him and his family as I fire him." So he's appointing Lieutenant General Dan Razin Kane to be the next chairman. Kane is a career F-16 pilot who served on active duty and the National Guard, another part-timer, and had most recently served as the Associate Director for Military Affairs at the CIA. Brown has spent the day at the U.S.-Mexico border assessing the military's rapid buildup of forces to meet Trump's executive order on countering illegal immigration. Yeah.
A part-timer.
Here we are. Yeah.
Part-time, full-time, part-time. Here we are.
Some people go and they do like 4 or 6 years and then they get out and they join the Guard where they go like, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the year. Call them part-timers.
Part-timers.
I'm sure
I don't know.
Piss off a lot of people with that. I mean, again, here we are. We're talking about the constitutionality of these things. Robert, is this a red flag? Is this a big blaring red light?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I thought there was another Ryan rant on the.
Sorry, yeah.
Interrupted.
He was over there sending an email out. He was working.
What, after the Ryan rant, we're going to try to go a little highbrow again now? Come on.
Hey.
Yeah.
Got to give him a little everything. But no, I mean, it's really interesting because to me, I have bells going off in my head. Like I have warnings. Just this is bad.
No, it is bad, and it's worrisome. Again, it's you've got a whole system of checks and balances written in. Congress created this kind of structure with the Pentagon. It put in the Joint Chiefs was supposed to have a term that kind of overlapped presidents in order to have a little bit of independence and somebody comes in and you don't have a change in the security profile of the United States. Well, this is just totally violated. And, in one way, Trump can do this. He has more power to do this in his role as commander in chief, but it's imprudent. It's incompetent. So, and
what do you think, Ian?
Lieutenant General in. So,
yeah. This is the takeover.
Sure feels that way, doesn't
you guys, I can't stress enough that we have to learn from history. And when you learn how Hitler took over and removed his government in 53 days, the clock is ticking.
Well, it's kind of interesting. The framers, there's great letters between Abigail Adams and John and other people. They were worried about Alexander Hamilton being a little Bonaparte, Bonaparte, because their example was Napoleon Bonaparte, who wiped out the French Revolution, French democracy for a while.
Yeah.
And you've got Donald Trump quoting from Napoleon Bonaparte.
Yeah.
So man who saves his country cannot, be illegal or whatever.
Oh my God, I saw that and my head wanted to explode.
I know. It's just problematic.
It's like the president's tweeting that out, people.
Well,
yeah.
Go backwards. Richard Nixon interview with Robert Frost said when the president does it, that's not illegal. That was shocking.
Yeah.
Yes.
It really is the same thing.
By Trump. That goes all the way back, by the way, in history of the Constitution and common law. James I of England said, Rex est loquens. The king is the law speaking. Well, Samuel Rutherford, constitutional theorist, who the framers all read, his position was Rex lex. The law is king. The king is not, the law is not the king speaking, the law. And that's what the framers understood. The law is
Right.
king. We created a structure where the law is king.
But that's the part where we're seeing that
there we go.
this is all lawless now, where
Yeah.
you have this convicted felon who is officially president, which is a joke in itself. And then you have the fact that he's just pardoned all these people who, even the Republicans, even real starch Republicans, I don't want people who beat up cops to be released. That's just a simple fact. And here we are.
How law enforcement is supporting him. How can law enforcement support him when he just pardoned people who assaulted police officers?
That's right.
And killed them?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
it's
right.
insane. It's insane.
And all of those unions that he had that had his support, the firefighters, the police, all of them are looking sideways now. Like, wait a minute, this is not what we wanted.
It's like we knew it was going to go down that way.
We knew it was, but this is the part where he's removing the adults.
Right. I don't think that people realized that what they were getting was Project 2025. And
but
they didn't want to hear it though.
They didn't want to hear it. They did not want to hear it.
And I would say, I'm not sure even Donald Trump understands it. Donald Trump doesn't understand the.
He's a puppet. No, I agree with you.
He just has a bunch of people to appease his ego and makes him feel like, whatever, and they're free to run amok.
I agree.
I mean, they just confirmed one of the main authors from Project 2025.
I got another buddy
into the cabinet, so
another buddy who went to high school with. I had a good conversation with him the other day, Jason Zimmerman. He's a pilot, and we were actually talking. I wanted his opinion on some of this stuff going on. And as a lot of listeners know, I'm an aircraft mechanic and engineer by trade, retired now, but so I could look at it and kind of guess. But we started talking because of the Delta plane. The way it just rolled, it looked like the one of the main landing gears failed when it hit the ground and caused it to roll, and that's what got the conversation started. I hope we can get him on the podcast actually, because he brought up some really good points. I called him because I didn't want to be one of the people jumping on the Trump's in office and all these airplanes are crashing. It takes time for some things to take effect, right? And he made a really good point about that these things that we're seeing right now aren't necessarily directly related to these decisions because it's been so fast. Is it interesting? Yeah. I asked AI, is this more than usual? It said yes. But again, I think I framed the question as, is the amount of plane crashes in 2025 so far more than usual? So again, it's only looking at 30 days worth of data roughly. So just trying to be as in the middle of it as possible, or as unbiased with it as possible. So I didn't want to be one of the people on the left with the knee-jerk reaction of, see, this is all Trump's fault. I think some of the timing is interesting, but like he said, he goes, now in 6 months, 6 months, 8 months, he goes, then we're going to start seeing air traffic controllers, it's going to start affecting people. He's like, then that's a different story. So I think I would just want to caution our listeners, I'll tell you what, man, AI is great. I'm loving it. I'm loving it for fact checking. So just guys, fact check stuff. It doesn't take but a second. We all have these little things that are attached to our hands, almost daily. Use it to look some of this stuff up. Don't be an easy mark for Trump and his rhetoric. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I mean, 6 months from now, Donald Trump is still going to try to be blaming Joe Biden. I have this mental
for sure, 100%.
A volcano that'll blow up, and somehow it's going to be Biden's fault. Yep. I mean, this starts to get more and more absurd as time goes on. Gentlemen, listen, my iPad is running out of power. You know what?
No, that's fine. We'll So before we do that, because I want to talk about one thing, but I also want to tell people real quick, AP is suing the Trump administration, 3 of the officials, like the White House press secretary and 2 other people. So go look into that. Again, when news agencies are having to sue an administration for basically kicking them out, again, that's a big red flag. We keep talking about comparisons between, Germany in 1940s and stuff. When you start banning, kicking out news agencies, which the Pentagon has kicked out almost all what they call legacy media, The White House press secretary has made it so that there's a new circulation of people, but they're kicking out AP, CNN, and whatever, and they're putting in like OWN and all these right-wing loyalist news organizations. So it's just crazy. But the last thing I want to talk about, because I stirred up so much crap online today, and I wanted to ask a constitutional person about this, is I wanted to ask about United States Code 18, Chapter 115, subsection 2381, treason. Whoever, owing allegiance to the United States, levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death, or shall be in prison not less than 5 years, and fined under this title, but not less than 10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. My question to you, sir, is: has anything happened in the last 30 days that you think would fall under that?
Yeah, this came up in Trump's first term, as a matter of fact, with the Russian collusion issue, which, by the way, the Mueller report actually established.
Thank you.
Prosecuted because he was president, he was head of the executive department, head of the ultimate boss. But that just kind of got forgotten. And his attorney general came in and lied and said it exonerated the president, whatnot. And it was utterly absurd.
Yeah.
So has he done something along that line yet? Not that I've seen quite yet, but this cushing up to Vladimir Putin is raising the flag for me and
too.
Our allies, and what's going on in the back deal. And if we find out that there's a deal for a Trump hotel in Moscow, well, then we're starting to look into that area right there.
And the one that's the biggest thing throwing the flag up for me, Robert, is him trying so hard to get Zelensky out.
Yeah.
I feel like he's doing that for Putin.
Well, and Ronald Reagan is rolling over in his grave. And the true Reagan Republicans, who we could disagree with on a lot of issues, I have a certain affinity for him. I think I told you guys I'm writing an op-ed. Is how Donald Trump has turned me into a Ronald Reagan Republican on foreign policy.
No, you need to send it to us when you're done.
Yeah, I will.
We'll have to have you back, man.
Yeah, man. So again, everybody, this is why we have constitutional scholars on our show, because we're not trying to start a cult. We're just trying to educate folks. So make sure you go check out his book. It is available on Amazon. It's called Fixing the Framers' Failure. So it's Robert J. McWhirter. So make sure you go get that book. Educate yourselves. That's one of the best things that we can do for ourselves in our country right now is educate ourselves. Make sure we know what's going on. Make sure that we actually pay attention to laws, even if they don't want to. So
I'm looking forward to reading this, Robert. So yeah, you have to come back and definitely talk about this, and also SAVE Act. I want to talk to you more about that.
And hopefully the country will, still be around and not burning to the ground. So go charge your battery, brother, because we're gonna need you in this fight.
Gentlemen.
But as always, much love, everybody. Keep fighting, but most importantly,
Ryan,
stay safe.
real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Real quick. Bye, Robert.
We'll see you later, Robert.
Robert can go. What's your positive, my man? Because you're about to just leave too. We got.
I was about to hit the the thing.
Don't hit no outros, baby. No outros. We can decompress real quick. We got 2 Ryan rants in this episode with a whole bunch of AI. So
you didn't get my my Tulsi Gabbard rant.
Hey, you know what? I thought we'd save that for another episode. And also on top of that, we do have one more Friday out of this month.
Yes,
that we're going to do, guys. We are moving to Wednesdays. That's not next week. I just wanted to clarify with
Thank you.
Next week,
we will.
We do have a special guest again.
Yes, we do.
So definitely tune in next Friday.
You gonna tell me who it is?
Show up. No, y'all show up and come find out.
No, you tell them who it is so they show up.
Marcus Flowers, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Marcus Flowers, who went to bring the fight in Georgia against Marjorie Taylor Greene, is going to be joining us. We are going to find out the good, the bad, and the ugly of what Marcus had to endure, and find out how the fight continues. So tune in next Friday for our last Friday doing the show. So that'd be number 51 for us. But
feeling Wednesdays now.
but it'd be why weekly Wednesdays.
Why no Wednesdays? Why no Wednesdays?
We're
You like
working
that.
on
You
some
like
things.
that. You like that.
We're working on some things. I might start drinking on Wednesday. Who knows? We'll find out. What's your positive, my brother?
Oh, my positive. Well, I got two positives. So my first
Okay.
positive is my family.
Okay.
You know, my family and I, we're going through a little rough patch right now, and even with that, you know, I still wake up every day happy that I've got my wife, got my kids. You know, we're established, safe. So just feeling very blessed this week, especially with all just everything going on in the world, seeing what other people are having to deal with, and you know, it just kind of tends to make your problems look a little smaller. So I think I'm just feeling a little appreciation for that. But the other thing is, honestly, you and this show, it's just become such a focal point of my week. And you know, we always joke about it being like our therapy sessions.
Yeah.
But it really, the community that we've built so far, that we're building, I should say. And now that we're getting these great guests on, you know, people are willing to come on the show and you know, lend their time because, you know, but we don't pay Bob. Bob comes on for free.
I'm gonna say Robert looked a little shook after seeing a Ryan rant. All right,
did he? I wasn't looking.
I said, "Welcome to Hold the Mic, Robert." There we go.
But no, so it's just I'm very thankful for everybody listening, everybody that, you know, I've got people, hey, send me the link to the show so I can send it to my friends. So just seeing how we're starting to grow, and the message that we're putting out there is definitely, I know it's hitting with people, and I think that we're going in the right direction, and that makes me not just happy, man. I think I'm enjoying a feeling of calm, even with all the bullshit. You know,
Yeah.
I have a sense of calm in my life and what we're doing. You know, so it's like, even with how bad everything is looking, I'm still able to maintain this calm, and I think that's definitely hopefully going to continue to be a positive, you know, for me, that I can just maintain this calm and everything in my personal life while we're still dealing with all the craziness out there. So
Yeah.
So big shout out to all our listeners and everybody that downloads, especially our listeners in other countries. Like I said, I know for a fact that everything that we're going through affects everybody worldwide. So sorry.
If a Ryan rant is calm, then Tim Pool is scared like a motherfucker right now. Okay,
He should be,
you know,
a little bitch. I bring that little. I was gonna say bald motherfucker. I'll say it. Bring that bald motherfucker on this show. It'll be two bald motherfuckers going at it.
Well, I guess I won't be on that episode. I guess I will not be on that episode.
I will bring any MAGA dumbass on here. I'll take on Charlie Kirk. I'll take on fucking Ben Shapiro. I'll take on Tim Pool. I'll take on Joy Manarino. I'll take on all you stupid fucks, because you're all treasonous pieces of shit. Now that Bob's gone, you're all treasonous pieces of shit.
Ryan rant number 3. Let's get it. Unscripted, unfiltered.
But no, guys, seriously, all joking aside, these are serious times, and you know, we do need serious people. It's okay to joke around. It's okay to let. I said this either yesterday or this morning. It's okay to let our feelings fuel us in this fight. Like that's I draw a lot of that from my feelings, but got to bring the receipts too.
Yeah.
Always got to bring the receipts too. So before I let Ian go into his positive, that's what I want to leave y'all with. Like, it's okay to let that anger out. It's okay to let that fuel us. Just make sure you bring the facts with you too.
Yeah. It's true, man. It's you know, it's really
overtime rant.
Overtime, man. It's Ryan rant.
We love you too, Chris. Appreciate y'all.
Ryan rant after dark is what we're getting into. You know, it's this show has been very important to a lot of us, and building community, which has been the focal point.
Yeah.
And us moving to Wednesdays is actually going to be really positive. There's some time where I can spend actually more so with my children that are getting a little bit bigger. You know, those pirate swords are not going to play with themselves. You know what I mean? And it's little man just wants to have a pirate fight. That's all he wants to do. And so, you know, Captain Daddy, as I'm called, I'm the villain. So So that's a huge help to switch days and to create these kind of moments, these memories. What else are we fighting for, right?
Yep.
And this show is I want to give a shout out to my wife, because I believe today's episode was the very first episode. So that just goes to show you that the marriage is going great. It just takes 50 episodes for her to come check out what I have to say. And so that's my positive right there. Is that I think we finally got her.
Who's this asshole that he talks to every Friday?
So I think we finally got her. And I just love the fact that her friends literally made her come in here and say, I need a link to the show. Like she wasn't going to Google it. She was not even going to look it up. She said, you send me a link. That's as far as it was going to take for me to go ahead and actually send her the link to this show so she could find us for
See,
live
now,
today.
Jen, I just automatically assume Jen's watching, and if she doesn't come in and say your audio sucks, that we're good.
That's it. Yeah. Robert, we got to talk to Robert, because definitely his audio was killing us. Headphones or something. So we'll have to figure that out.
I'm going to buy him a mic and send it to him, or drive it to him.
You can just walk it right to him. There it is. I'm really looking forward to his book. I'm looking forward to that episode. I don't think you scared him away. I think he just got a taste of a good Ryan rant. But it's going to be great to really spend some time with the family this weekend. That's what I'm looking forward to. And it rejuvenates us for this fight.
Yep.
I really want you guys, hit that like, subscribe button. Look out for the notifications. We are going to be making some changes. And the thing that I want you guys all to know is that we are trying to do this the right way, but we are bringing the fight. We are not scared of what's in front of us. We are not worried about what a DOJ is. We're not worried about what this administration is. We want to come here and we want to hold them accountable, because God damn it, I was promised cheap eggs, livable wages, and this bullshit is not turning out. Cheap gas.
Bullshit.
This stuff is not panning out the way that
a soda shouldn't cost me $3.50 either. God,
you know what I mean? So we're going to show up here and we're going to do our job, and that's the reality. And we're not going to drink on our job unless it's Valentine's Day. Guilty.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
So we got the question, what AI do we use? So the sponsor of our podcast is Justice AI. So it's a branch off of Chat GPT, but it's amazing. We did a whole episode on it. Please go check it out. It's with Christian Ortiz, and it was a sponsor episode. I think I actually called it sponsor highlight or something like that. Oh, sponsor spotlight is what I called it. So go check that out. Justice AI, it's amazing. And the whole point of it is to take out the bias that can be built into AI. Yeah. So for example, Grok is great, which is Elon Musk's AI, but he just did a switch to Grok 3, which is he's put a lot more bias into the programming. So Justice AI is built specifically to take out bias, and you can literally say decolonize this. And what it'll do is it'll take a tweet that I put out, and if you ask it to decolonize it, it'll tell you everything that's wrong with the tweet. So if you put some racial bias, crap in there, it's going to point that out and say, if you want a more, a more unbiased, post or tweet or whatever, you should consider taking this out.
Right.
And it's just amazing. So I use it to fact check too. So I use it daily now. So
I'm so glad that you're using AI as much as you are, because it's dude, I live by it.
Dominic came out to me, and not to me, came out to his mom, and he's like, "Mom, can I use Chat GPT for this?" And I said, "What did you just say?"
What he was talking about, guys, was his finals.
Yeah, well, that wasn't what I was asking for. I was like, "You know what Chat GPT is?" He's like, yeah, use it. I was like,
come on, man.
Okay.
But the thing is, teaching the next generation, how do you use it? And then how do you question that? And then also do your own research. If it sounds a little off, let me go ahead and look that up real quick. But, when Google is telling you that the Gulf of Mexico is the Gulf of America, can you really trust Google anymore? I don't know. I'm just saying.
That's a good point. And the calendars, they took Black History Month off the calendar.
You're tainting your brand. And I'm just saying to you, like, you're pushing me towards AI system that's going to tell me, that's not that. So just keep that in consideration, guys.
That's a very good point. Google isn't going to be the thing anymore.
I want you to think about that when you go to Google something. It's like, how biased is this now? Like, what are we talking here? Is this trying to not get on the bad side of Trump? You've now lost weight with me. I can't trust you. So let that sink in, guys. Let that sink in. My man,
Yeah.
I love this ride with you.
Me too, brother.
Like, subscribe, hit the notification, guys. We really appreciate you guys showing up on Fridays. One last Friday.
Yep.
One last Friday.
Marcus Flowers. So we're gonna end our Fridays with a bang. He texted me this morning to verify. So very excited to have him on the show. Very excited for you guys to get to hear him. I've actually done a podcast with him like when I was first starting out 3-4 years ago. So I'm actually excited to have him on now that I actually know what I'm doing. And he's such a great guy. And I'm glad he's still in this fight, after losing to Marjorie Taylor douchebag. We need more people like him in the fight. So I'm looking forward to handing him our mic and giving him our platform for a little bit and see how we can help him out in Georgia as well. Stay focused on these special elections coming up in April. Where is it?
It's this one's going to be in Florida. The first one's in Florida. So, and then followed up on New York. So, but we'll follow up as we get through this.
Yep.
But first in Florida.
We need
that outro.
We need to focus on that stuff. But as always, much love, keep fighting. But most importantly, make sure you all stay safe out there.